Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. That's right. Welcome to my live stream. So we're going to be drawing a robot. It's the first thing I have to do tonight of many things. There's a couple roughs I have to do for a client. There's obviously Staying Up With Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the graphic novel that I've been working on. With me do an X-ray. We're going to be doing it of a robot that they use a lot in their marketing and stuff like that, like a modified version of that robot. And they want it to be a little similar to my Hermit X-ray design. And so that's what I'm going to be working on today. So if you guys want to learn how to do a cool X-ray illustration, assuming I don't completely bomb it, that's what I'm going to be doing. So this will be kind of fun. The nice thing about this is it's kind of unplanned out. I just basically want to do a profile. I know what the character looks like. I think the most complicated thing that I'm going to be drawing is basically like a tube, like a vacuum tube. But aside from that, it should be a fairly straightforward illustration. We'll see if we can make it cool. I have references pulled up and everything ready to go. So that's what I'm going to be basically trying to work on today, and hopefully not taking a ton of time to do it. What's going to be interesting is I'm going to be attempting to do this digitally. The original Kermit X-ray that I did a long time ago was actually traditionally done. But I think that I've, especially with the graphic novel I've been working on, gotten to a point where I can do this digitally. So we'll see how that goes. What else? Yeah, I mean, it's a Sunday. It'll be an interesting day. I'm drinking coffee from my wonderful DSM mug, which you guys can get if you search for Gary Hodges. Dinosaurs versus Mars bots. I'm not remembering whether Gary made those available through Etsy or not. So if Gary's watching, let people know where they can find it. But it's great. It's this young child. A very sweet story where the child discovers a UFO. They become friends. Dinosaurs versus Mars bots. Definitely a friendly neighborhood comic about, make friends and befriending aliens. The curiosity and wonder of a child. That's definitely that part of that book. I'm sorry for the spoilers. But you guys should read that too. Okay, so in fact, the next time you're watching Gary Hodges stream, you should ask him about just how friendly and kind of how Gary's stories are influenced by, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and trying to inculcate young folks with a sense of wonder and awe at the universe. Jim said, "Is this AI or the real Kemble?" It's hard to tell. I will tell you guys. Okay, before we get into drawing, I'm such a nerd. I have not made a hidden point of the fact that modern hip hop kind of bores me, and I did like hip hop a lot. Um, and I have been a fan of the hip and the hop. I would not call myself like a true hip hop head. Like I'm not heavy into it where I know all the beefs and all the deep cuts and like all the DJs and all the producers and stuff like that. Like I have buddies who are like true hip hop heads. I would by no means call myself a hip hop head, but I like hip hop. And the one thing that I haven't liked lately is a lot of modern hip hop, but I am a huge fan of Kendrick Lamar. And he's probably one of the few MCs that I've heard recently where I just instantly connected it, like from Good Kid, Mad City on, and then of course digging back into his old records and stuff. I just think he's a genius, and I think what he's doing is really unique and great in hip hop. But it's been fun. The last few days, if you're a hip hop fan, have been really fun because there's just this ongoing wild beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And I am not. I'm too old to be into Drake at all. I don't vibe with it. But it's been fun to see Kendrick Lamar uh, lyrically decimate another human being, and makes me feel justified in my love of Kendrick Lamar and his music because I'm like, wow, as an MC, like he's literally murdering someone on the internet, and it's fun to be a bystander and watch the carnage. So that's been a fun thing on the hip hop front, but I'm not a hip hop vlogger. But I just will say, if you guys are fans of hip hop, you should check out uh, Kendrick Lamar's 4 diss tracks that he dropped in like 24 hours. It's pretty epic, and it will be in like if anyone's going back to like this era in time and in the records and the books of hip hop history, I think this beef will go down with other beefs like Nas versus JD and stuff like that. It's pretty wild and kind of fun to watch live. Um, it's been a while since I've seen anything like that was remotely interested in. So anyhow, let's do this. And let's draw. Okay, so we're gonna go to our stream. I have my references pulled up. So that top right robot, that's kind of the gist and the vibe of the robot we want to have. I've had to illustrate this dude a couple times. I shouldn't say had to. I've been fortunate enough to illustrate this dude a couple times for this publisher. And he's pretty fun. He's pretty easy template to follow. I want to do him really realistically. And I remember doing this. I mean, it's been over a decade since I did the Kermit X-ray shirt, but the main trick that I did with it was putting a real X-ray near me so that I could look at said real X-ray, which I have right here. And I'm going to basically use that to kind of figure out my rendering. And just like I'm going to do is mostly render it as I would anything. But the thing that I want to keep in mind is generally when rendering something, like a circle or something like that, you're going to kind of assume a light source coming from like a direction or another. And then you're going to kind of, basically have like your reflected light coming from like the ground area. You're going to have, your kind of core shadow, and you're going to have like a lighter area, right? Where let's say it's like a sphere or something. And then it's just going to, as it gets kind of further from the light, closer to the reflected light, it's going to get darker and so on. This is a really bad rendering, but it gives you an idea. So generally when you're rendering, you're going to do something like that. But with the trick that I figured out with the Kermit X-ray is on an X-ray, it's much more kind of boring. So if I do the rendering for an X-ray, what I'm going to do is kind of like assume that the light source is actually coming from here. Like it's just dead on. So my light source is going to come from here, and then it's going to kind of come from there and darken as it gets further away from the light source. I hope that makes sense. So it's a little less fun to render, but the point being, I'm not going to want it to be directional or whatever. I want it to be kind of coming from from straight ahead, however you kind of say that. So that's going to be the trick here, and we're going to see how well we can kind of do that with these basic shapes and basic stuff. So what I want to do first is just kind of start sketching out the robot. Obviously, this is going to be a loose sketch, and then we'll move over that and do like a rougher sketch. Easy robot to draw here. Doing like a vintage style robot. He's kind of like a cylinder almost, but he's also like he's a little wider at the top, like in this kind of area, and he kind of slims down to here. And I want him to be with his head facing, tilting just a little bit up. So he's going to have like a circle there. I am doing too many lines, but whatever. This is just like an underdrawing. So I want to almost draw him like almost as a straight, like kind of tube that I kind of am cutting in this spot across. And then what I want to do is kind of widen him a little bit. And I keep calling it a him, but it's a robot. And I don't know if there's a specific gender for said robot. So I should just say it. And I know there's like robot rights advocates out there that are going to get really mad that I'm dehumanizing a robot. But, it's a robot, all right? And when it comes down to it, as an artist, we're at war with robots nowadays. We're at war with these AI algorithms trying to do our jobs for us. So, you know what? This robot gets called it. That's right. Anyhow, so I want him to have like a bulb thing. My wife in the background was like, super harsh, dude, but we're winning this fight. I love it. Okay, so again, I'm just doing some structural stuff. This is a real basic like structure. It's about as easy as it comes for drawing if you have something that's just literally cylinders. I don't like these like web eyes for an X-ray. So what I'm gonna probably do is more kind of equivalent to, you know, um, like Iron Giant style eyes. So we're probably gonna do like some Iron Giant type eyes here. And the thing that I will say that people mess up on all the time with drawings is not drawing through lines on their characters. And by people, I mean I've made that mistake a million times. So draw through lines on your characters. Even if you're drawing a simple robot dude, draw some through lines. You won't regret it. It's going to save you a lot of headache later on. If you ever notice that you draw a face and you've got like an eye that's kind of like up here, right? And then like, you kind of draw it and you're like, why does those eyes look off? It's because you didn't draw a through line. And then when you draw a through line, you're like, wow, this eye is way off. Anyhow, so whatever. Okay. Now I'm gonna kind of build it out, and again, I'm gonna just draw like 100,000 lines on here. Count them as I go. See if it's 100,000 lines. If it's not, you can send me to the YouTube police. Okay, so we're also doing this. Jim, make sure you pass on to Gary Hodges my statement about, Dinosaurs versus Mars bots being a wholesome, family fun adventure. It's definitely a family oriented thing. I'd say it's like a dumbed down Jurassic Park. Like Jurassic Park is like, kind of aiming to get a little bit of an older audience, but I would say that Dinosaurs versus Mars bots is like definitely like an entry level, entry reading kind of thing. A friendly story about people befriending aliens. I am I misrepresenting that? What's up? No, I'm my wife was like, sounds a little insulting. I am completely joking. I want to be really clear about that. So Gary's story, for anybody who might actually have taken that literally, no, do not buy your child that book. It is terrifying. It is it is psychologically deep and complex, and it will ruin your perception. It's like it's got elements of horror. It's got just so much depth, and it's like saying, the joke behind what I am saying is, it's like if I was saying The Shining is a family friendly movie that you should bring your kids to. That was the joke. So if you're watching this and you're like considering, I need to buy Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots for my child, don't buy it for yourself. It's great. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant piece of work. But yeah, definitely buy it like a 5-year old, unless you want them to have nightmares for a long period of time. Um, but no, I hope that that's clear. I just thought it was funny because the mug could be interpreted, if you haven't read the, it could be interpreted that this child, is going to go into this UFO and have a grand adventure. And if you've read this comic, you'll know what happens to this child, and it's not family friendly. Okay, so we're starting to kind of draw our little tube guy. I don't want him to just be a floating head, which is why I have this over here. I actually want to arrange this where we can get like his neck in here too. So he has this kind of interesting like tube-like neck. But yes, there's nothing dumbed down about Gary Hodges' work. It's very intelligent, high-level work. And hopefully, if Gary watches this, he doesn't think I was insulting him or anything. I was razzing him a little bit. Or not even really razzing him, razzing the viewer who might not know that Gary's work is very good and very much not geared towards very young children. Okay. I'm gonna have like this kind of be a similar pose to his to this guy, this dude here. And then I'm gonna kind of look into making, again, drawing my center lines, and maybe we'll do just a little bit of interest here. I kind of like the idea of him having like a chest plate thing. The nice thing about this client is the robot kind of stays consistent throughout, but like not always, not fully consistent. So we're going to have this, and then maybe I do these wings things, but I've noticed that sometimes when this robot's drawn, he doesn't have those wings. So I'm going to kind of leave that as potentially optional. But what I am going to do is do this. Get that arm in there too. So we have a rough sketch kind of going of our robot guy. And now we can get a little closer to the X-ray that will happen. The one thing that's also going to happen eventually is, in this X-ray, I'm going to find out what this said robot is powered by. And the robot will be powered by coffee. Because this is a shirt that's going to sell the primarily, I believe the main audience for this publisher are hackers and computer programmers. And the robot is kind of representative of said people in their lore, the publishing lore. And so, what else would a hacker or a computer programmer be powered by? And let me add to that, not just hackers and computer programmers, but graphic designers, illustrators. What else are we powered by than coffee? That's right. So we're going to have a coffee pot revealed in there. And that means I might have to widen his head a little bit. And that might mean that I need to move this eyeball over here a little bit. And again, this is an underdrawing. An underdrawing. Underdrawing. Felix said coffee robot. Nice. That's right. It's nice. Your mom's nice. No, really, she's a nice person. I'm spicy today. I don't know what's going on. All right. There's a bassist who has a YouTube channel on YouTube that I really like that goes by Davey54. If you guys have never checked out his stuff, you should. Obviously, he doesn't need me to promote him. He's a huge YouTuber. But he does have this like rundown where he was going through the top 10 most expensive basses, and he starts with like an inexpensive bass and kind of works his way up to the most expensive. And at the end, he says, which is like this crazy expensive bass. It's like a $200,000 bass or something. And he's like, which is the most expensive thing other than your mom? And he's like, who's very expensive. Her time is invaluable. She's a wonderful lady. And I was like, that's amazing. Such the delivery of it was muy fabuloso. Let's see here. I love it. So Frank said, "Hello, Joshua. Happy May 5th." Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it is the 5th of May. There's it's good times. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I have my rough drawing. That was nice. We got like a nice little rough sketch going. Now what we're gonna do is, Felix said, "Good mom jokes." By the way, thank you. All right. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go to a commercial, and then we're gonna take this underdrawing, and we're gonna make it something cool. All right. All right. All right. All right. My wife was like, "Stop." All right, here's the trailer for this is a Jim Luhan tune for you guys. Okay.
We know the Georgia kids say the craziest thing.
So, little Susie, do you have any brothers or sisters? I understand you're in 3rd grade. How do you like that? Do you like your teacher? You like to do a lot of fun things at school? You got any hobbies, Susie? Any things you like to do when you're not in school? I hear you like to read.
Well, right now I'm reading 2 stories written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It grapples with faith and mental illness. It's ultimately a story about redemption. It's a savage piece of writing. Also, I just finished up Jacob's Apartment, another one by Kemble. Jacob's Apartment weaves together elements of spiritualism and relationship dynamics, as well as atheism. And all the while it deals with abandonment and loyalty. It's a fierce, fierce read.
Do you like ponies?
Okay, so now I'm going to make those blue lines, and then we're going to draw over them much more tenderly. Much more tenderly. So I want to start actually just getting into wild detail. I have enough here. to kind of start sharpening it up. Again, this isn't going to probably be the final line, but I want to get the final details on here for, just basically the line details before we start rendering. So I want to also, again, I'm going to kind of zoom out and look at this thing, what it's made of. This is the tube that I kind of want to base it off of. And it doesn't need to be exact, but be helpful to kind of have it tighten up a little bit, get that going. And again, this is a fun kind of illustration to do where, it's not hard to draw these shapes, and a lot of things that are nice about drawing old school robots is, again, it's kind of about the fun of it. So I'm going to just kind of draw this through. And I assume that behind this would be that stuff, but we don't need that stuff. And we're just going to kind of start figuring out what line I'm going to keep here. I like the eye here being a little bit further back. So I'm going to do that. Do the interior circle here. The inner circle. How are you guys doing? If you're watching this, I'd love to hear what you guys are working on, how your Sunday's going. And we're just going to get this a little cleaned up. Do. I have a lot of Mario music stuck in my head because my son was watching these videos that are bits about Mario that are very funny. The only downside of working digitally here is going to be when it comes to the little fine lines, because I like getting a little rough when I'm working digitally. Not so much of a clean digital line guy, but we'll get there. Frank said, I'm going to start drawing some roosters tomorrow, a commission. Nice. Felix said, doing good working on a Transformers fan comic. Nice. I mean, what is a fan without Transformers? I'm here all night. Power Transformers, a fan, an electric fan. Jokes are so good when you have to explain them, especially when you have to over-explain them. They're excellent. Frank said, I just returned from church. I'm going to watch Three Amigos to celebrate May the 5th. I would like to watch Three Amigos to celebrate May the 5th because it is the best. Would you say that I have a plethora? Why would you tell me I have a plethora if you don't even know what a plethora is? That movie is amazing. That's a great movie. There's a clip online, like Siskel and Ebert just trashing that movie, sitting right next to Chevy Chase. And I was like, you know what? I liked Siskel and Ebert. And generally, like, a lot of their judgments were good, but they were way off on that. That's a classic. That is a classic. I feel like sometimes, particularly with comedy, is where like Siskel and Ebert would kind of lose the plot. I don't know. Maybe that's just critics in general. Maybe sometimes when it comes to comedy, critics have trouble. Frank said, I just saw that the other day. Yeah, I was a little shocked by it. I was like, I thought you guys had good taste. That's a classic comedy. I mean, I get where they're coming from because it is an extremely dumb movie, but that's what's great about it. It's one of my favorites, man. Steve Martin is so funny. They're all funny in it. It's an incredible movie. I was riding my horse. The singing bush, the invisible swordsman. There's so many good parts in that movie. There really are. It's a great movie. Okay. Again, just kind of polishing up, right? Getting a little closer. I don't like this. I feel like this is off. This seems a little off. There we go. Okay. Now, let's get into this. Inside is a coffee pot. A coffee pot that's going to be amazing. That's going to be the best coffee pot anyone has ever drank from. Drank. All right. Frank said, I do expect that they didn't back down from what they thought. Yeah, 100%. It's easier to, like, if you're sitting next to an actor, to say that you don't like their movie, that does take some stones, you know? So I will agree with you on that. Like, that was very bold. And honestly, from what I've heard about Chevy Chase, it's like, you know, like Fletch, especially as a kid, I thought those were great movies. I haven't rewatched them in years. I wonder if they hold up. But from what I've heard about Mr. Chase, apparently the guy does not have a great sense of humor. It's kind of a jerk. So maybe with someone like him with his temperament, maybe they knew about it and they're like, "Hey, let's mess with this guy." I don't know. But still, you know, that's probably my favorite movie that he's in. And I want to kind of give this, like, this is going to be almost like from the bottom up. So we're going to be kind of looking at it from below. And then we're going to kind of get into working out this guy, working out this dude. I think if I was there, yeah, that's going to be more middle of the road. Yeah, Frank was saying I think with Chevy he needs good actors to play off of. I mean, I think he's really funny. Like, I did like him a lot, you know, when I was a kid. It's just like from some of the stuff I've read, I guess he's a difficult man. And I think a lot of that stuff that I read was when Community was running, where they, like, a lot of the Community cast were having trouble with him, where they were like, "Wow, this guy's kind of a jerk." And they had hired him kind of regardless of that opinion, even though a lot of people were like, just so you know, you hire this guy, it might be kind of a headache. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. I don't like how high up the eyes are. I think that would have been a mistake on my part. So we'll move the eyes down in a little bit. Because looking at this, the eyes are kind of like if I'm drawing him, the eyes are kind of down there, and I drew him up here. So, yeah, we'll fix that in a second. And I mean, the fun part is, again, this is like basic shapes, so it should be fairly quick. I thought it would be fairly quick. We'll see. Might be deceptively long. For those of you watching, you may not be aware, I am not the quickest artist. I'm not a slow artist, I don't think, but I'm definitely not like super quick at this stuff. It takes me a little bit. And this is going to be another one of those kind of rings. So we're going to have rings, 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 rings. And I want to do another one of these. I will say, if you guys like hip hop, though, check out that Kendrick Lamar Drake beef. It's kind of amazing. I think I might be a little biased too because I live in California, so it's like it's kind of fun to see somebody repping California so well. Fletch and Spies Like Us. Oh, Spies Like Us. I forgot about that. That's great. But I haven't watched Fletch in years. I wonder if it's as good as I remember it being, you know? Like, is Fletch good now? That's what I wonder. Was it just being a kid? I've had times, you know, where you watch like an old movie and you're like, this was not very good, and I thought it was great when I was a kid. I have a feeling it'll hold up. Maybe this will have some computer, some junk science stuff on it. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Okay. We're getting one step closer. There's one thing I had to fix, which was I didn't like my eyeballs up here. Didn't like them. They weren't working. That was my bad. I like the eyeballs down here a little more. I think they're a little more reasonable. And I'm going to kind of stretch them a little bit. Because, you know, why not? Do. And now we're going to kind of get some of this fixed. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-boop. Boop-a-doop-boop. Inspector Gadgets. Okay. So I know my talk of Inspector Gadget is amazing. My rendering, my cover of that song. I don't like the kind of tangenty stuff that's happening here, so we might have to move it a little bit. Like this is real close, but it's not overlapping. But we'll kind of see where we get to in a little bit. And then there's a couple things I want to do here. One is it's going to have these kind of electrical components. And then we'll have just a couple more. Yeah, maybe that's it. Okay. We are getting closer, ladies and gentlemen. Frank said, "Is this illustration for Corey?" No, it's for a client that's in the Bay Area that makes a lot of books for hackers and computer programmers. And I've done a couple book covers for them, drawing said robot in kind of a style very similar to this style. And they were like, "Hey, dude, can you make us a shirt that's like an X-ray, kind of like your current one? It's a robot powered by something related to hackers." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do a robot powered by coffee." And he's like, "Yeah, coffee beans." And I was like, "That won't translate in an X-ray, but what will is a coffee pot." Because if I just did a bunch of coffee beans, it would just look like brains almost, you know. Although a brain made out of coffee beans would have been pretty cool. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Said it looks like something he'd do or utilize. Thanks. All right, so what we're doing now is we're gonna kind of hit this one more time, and then we're gonna actually start kind of refining and working this out. So I want you guys to see how this progresses. Like first you start with just like a real crappy rough sketch, right? Then you go boop, we start polishing it up. Right, and from there, now it's almost X-ray time. Almost. Yes. Okay. Cool. So I'll probably be streaming for about 30 more minutes, and then I will eat and get my kid bathed and all that fun stuff. But I think we might be able to actually wrap this in 30 minutes. We'll see. So now I want to actually start doing fine rendering with this. Not crazy rendering, but just enough to where we're kind of polishing it up. I want to make a thinner pencil, actually. I was going to go with that, but we'll go a little thinner. What I want to do here is really sharpen this up, but this isn't going to be a line heavy illustration, right? And the beauty of this is because these are kind of basic shapes, the rendering really shouldn't be hard to do. You can quote me on that 5 hours from now when I'm still working on it. So let's see. Yeah, that's looking pretty clean to me. And I'm just going to get some line in there just to kind of delineate some of the things. But again, there's a couple steps to this that are going to make it work. And they don't require line. So again, this is going to be mostly rendered. And then we will kind of work from there. So weirdly enough, we may have to do the rest of this in a little bit, but we'll see how far we can get in like 20 minutes. Yeah, I have Mario themes stuck in my head because my son's been watching these funny videos where it's like it'll be like a Mario playthrough and it'll be like, "It's a me." It's pretty fun. We got the Paul Pate in the house. How's it going, Paul? Paul, if you ever get a patent, that would be cool because you'd be like, patented by Paul, right? You should patent that. You should patent the idea of Paul patents. He said, I am the Paul Pate with 2 E's. I love it. Patented. Yeah. And then you'll have beef with like General Patton, who's like, hey, I had the patent on Patton. And you're like, no, I had patent. It'll be a wild wild ride. A wild knockdown, drag out war. Yeah, the weird part about these things is they have like just wild kind of wires going everywhere. So some of this is just going to be like, nonsense. But it's like good to kind of mess with the nonsense here and kind of see what all we can do. What can I do with the nonsense here? Do. And I want to have just wires. Let's keep this on straight edge business. We're getting there. Okay, so I kind of like that. That works. Now we're going to render that just a little bit. Meow, we're going to render it. My wife said it sounds like I said meow. Okay, we got a bulb. We got a bulbous bulb here. And it's going to be sort of lit from the middle. And I think I'm going to do a little bit of white on there. And again, we're just kind of shading away. And then the beauty of this is a lot of this is going to be reversed out for, for an X-ray kind of appearance. But I want to start really getting in there. And then I also want to have, again, this is, glass. So I'd like to have it be kind of, yep.
Charlotte's hiding in the laundry, okay? So don't sit.
Okay. We have a tiny little chihuahua, and they have to give warning sometimes if Sherlock is hiding in a specific spot so that he doesn't get squished. Okay, we got this kind of going in. I want to have just a little bit of reflected light here. That's too harsh, but we'll fix that up. And the beauty of this is, again, this shouldn't take like an incredibly long amount of time because it's all basic shape, But I do want this to have like a very rendered-y vibe. Rendered and hopefully not rendered useless, you know what I'm saying? Okay, and we're going to just add a little bit. And let's see what that looks like from a distance. Okay, might have gone a little too dark with that rendering, so let's get just a little bit more light in there. From a distance. And I definitely want some of that like glass kind of refraction going on with a little bit of the light. So maybe we'll do like a little bit of a deeper part here. Yeah, I'm kind of digging that. And now I think I'll do just one more layer. Paul was mentioning that he's reading Monica by Daniel Klaus. I wonder if it's good because I really want to read it, actually. That's the one Daniel Klaus I haven't checked out yet. And I love Daniel Klaus. He probably was one of the early guys that got me into indie comics. I mean, not like he walked up to me and was like, "Hey, you got to check out indie comics, kid." Like, but he was one of the first indie cartoonists that I got into. Because his style was so cool. So cool. He was a cool dude. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to overwork it. I'm going to save that. I'm going to play a trailer. We got about 15 minutes left, and then I'm going to use the restroom, and then we will go for another 15 minutes. So here is Jim Lujan.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm gonna have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm gonna go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish. I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right, so we're getting there. So now what I'm going to do is kind of pull this back. We're going to start adding our components here. So I want to have this get real thin. And we'll just make another layer here. And again, just real thin. Kind of doing our outline here. So this is going to be the kind of top part thing of him. Okay. So a couple things are going to happen here. One is it's going to be reflecting a little bit of shadow here. Okay. And then we're going to do our robot's going to get... Oh, I shouldn't be doing the shading on the same layer. Let's do another layer. Our robot's going to get just a little bit darker as he kind of recedes into the side. And this is going to get a little bit darker as it recedes back. Again, it's an X-ray, so we want it to be like almost like a light is blaring from the center. And we'll get into the X-ray effect in a second. But we may not on this stream. It might be on the next, which will come in a little bit. We're going to finish this tonight, though. Okay. And there's going to be a little bit of shadow here from what's going to come in the foreground. Oh. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Not if I'm digging that. We're getting kind of close, but I want to do just a little bit more. Maybe we actually do a little bit of hatching too with our shading. It doesn't quite work like a pencil, but might. Okay, and then I want to do just a little bit of white over this. So we have our and I want to round this out a little more with the white too. There's a little light kind of on the bulb. A bit of bulby business on there. We're getting there, guys. It's going to take a while, but not that long. Okay. I do want that shadow a little more clear too here. So let's do just a little bit more of that kind of shadow stuff going on here. Oh, come on. Computer's having issues. There we go. Got a little bit of shadow here. Do. Okay. I'm liking that. All right. So now we're going to do our broader shape. And we have about 7 minutes till I have to end the stream. I will be back on to finish this up. Probably at a reasonable time. We'll see. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to go in here and really polish these edges. Do I want to go with the outer or the inner? Let's go with the kind of in between. I was listening to a little bit of Tom Petty today, Wildflowers, and I was like, what a good album. It was a great album. I think if somebody doesn't like, there's a couple musicians that if somebody says they don't like, I'm like really distrustful of their taste afterwards. Because, you know, there's some musicians where it's like hard to access, you know. One of them would be Bob Marley. I feel like if you don't like Bob Marley, I don't know if I can trust you. Like, does that make sense? Is it like Bob Marley is just amazing, and it's like it's hard to. It would be hard for me to believe somebody straight shooter, if they say they don't like Bob Marley. It astounds me how somebody couldn't, you know, like especially you know the song "I Woke Up This Morning." Smiled with the rising sun, three little birds. It's like, dude, how can you not like that song? Right? It, I feel like there has to be something like cynical or weird about a human being to not like that song. And then the other, like another one that makes me very distrustful is somebody who doesn't like Tom Petty. It's Tom Petty. Paul said, if I don't like Bob Marley, you think I'm going to steal your lunch money? I think if you don't like Bob Marley, I just think there's something screwy there. There's something off. Like another Bob that I think is a genius, and I think I'd question your taste if you don't like him, is Bob Dylan, right? But I could understand. I can at least understand how Dylan is a little bit hard to access. I also noticed that I froze for a second there. But I can see why Dylan is a hard one for people to like. Like, even though I know personally that Dylan's a genius, and it's like, I think you'd wrong if you thought that Dylan wasn't good, but I could understand it. It's like his voice is a little hard to, he's got some weird stuff, you know? And I like, it's quirky stuff that I love, but it takes a while, and it's not like a it's not like a staple, you know, like a real easy, like, but good, you know. That but Marley is like, there's nothing weird about it, nothing hard access about it. It's like universal. Frank said, I like Bette Midler. I haven't seen her movie Beaches, but I hear it's good. I'm going to watch it tomorrow to lift up my spirits. Beach sounds like a fun movie. No. You're going to be depressed for like 5 years. It's one sad movies. If you want to see a Bette Midler movie that's good, there was a movie that I love, and this is a terrible movie. It's horrible. It's like it's an awful movie, but it's like awful good. It's called Big Business. Is one of the funniest movies that Bette Midler was in. Um, First Wives Club. My wife said is good. Is she in that? Okay, I don't know. That seems like a movie I wouldn't like, but Business is really good. Really good. Let's see here. Hocus Pocus. That's another one that's fun. But Beaches, yeah, I know that Frank is being silly. But yeah, Beaches will have you. That'll have you balling, and not balling like in the hip hop phrase turn and phrase. Okay, guys, we're getting there. We're getting there. We have our gentle little line going. It honestly should take about maybe half an hour to an hour longer to get this done. But I gotta go and get the bath going for my kid. Get the pizza going. I got some pizza to eat. I got names to take. Oh, hang on. Let's get at least this part done. And we'll finish this robot illustration in a little bit. Okay? So, before you know it, this is going to be a completed X-ray illustration of a robot. Okay. I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Make sure you've hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when I'm about to go live. And if you can, hit the like button if you've watched this and liked it so far. We're about, I'd say we're at like the halfway point. We have the structure of the drawing going. We have some of the rendering starting. And before you know it, this is going to be a finished red t-shirt design. So, okay. I will see you guys on the next live stream. Goodbye.